Thank you, members. It's already time. We've also formed a quorum. So first of all, let's invite the administration's representatives to join us. While we are waiting for the admin's team to join us, I just want to say something to you. The meeting on the 22nd of October was aborted, and therefore we weren't able to get an extension of the scrutiny of the subsidiary legislation. So the scrutiny period has already expired. On the 20th of October, when we last had our meeting, we completed the scrutiny of the subsidiary legislation. We raised a number of concerns. First of all, legibility of nutrition food labels. Second, the maximum penalties for non-compliance. And then for the infant formula sold in Hong Kong, we want to know whether there will be a study on the fluoride content. In response to members' requests, we have received a paper on legibility requirements. So please take a look at paper CB bracket 2159 14 to 15 bracket 01 to 04. Another paper has been given to us, and that is CB bracket 2165/14 to 15 bracket 02. And last time we said that in the case of inability to extend the scrutiny period, we would have one additional meeting, that is to wrap up what we have shown our concern, and probably the issues will be referred to the panel. As I have just said, mainly speaking, we would like to follow up on 3 points. First of all, legibility, penalties, and the fluoride content. So maybe first of all, I'd like to invite the administration to walk us through the paper. Thank you. The Deputy Secretary will be with you in a moment. She's attending to some urgent business. The Undersecretary. If I may just respond to what you have raised last time. First of all, in relation to the amendment regulation, in relation to the legibility requirement of food labels, the subcommittee asked us this question, that is whether we had taken out any prosecution. Well, in fact, earlier this year, at a panel meeting, there was a discussion on the same topic. At that time, we gave an explanation. The law has clear provision in relation to food labels on nutrition, and the food labels must be legible. At that meeting, members were concerned about the number of prosecution, saying that it's on the low side. We then gave a reply to the panel. In paragraphs 2 and 3, we have repeated the reply given at that time. Well, all the time, the strategy of the Center on Food Safety has been such that a warning would be issued to the relevant operator, hoping that within the time given, they would comply with the requirements. For the food traders, either they would amend the food labels so as to bring them into compliance, or the items have to be removed. Since the implementation of the food label laws, we haven't had any prosecution. We believed that there should be some room for changes, and therefore after reporting to the panel, we talked to the CFS. We thought that it would be high time to waive the grace period. So we have already, starting in October, done away with the sort of warning and grace period. That is, starting from 1st of October, if any food items are found to be non-compliant with the eligibility requirement, then we will immediately take prosecution action so as to enhance the effectiveness of the regulation. That's my reply for the first question from the subcommittee. What about the penalties as well as the fluoride content? Can you go through those as well? For the second question from the Secretariat, you would like to know about the fluoride content. You would like to know whether the provision is in line with the legislative intent and the policy intent. My answer is in the positive. It is because in the law, Section 1(2) of the newly added Schedule 6A, it says that if the fluoride contents of any infant formula in a form that is reconstitution or served according to any constructions for use provided exceeds 100 mg per 100 kcal or 24 mg per 100 kJ, the formula must be marked or labeled with a statement indicating the consumption that may cause dental fluorides, etc. As to whether we would sort of adhere to the statement that I read out when it comes to law enforcement, well, actually what is said here is that the CFS would look at the instructions for reconstitution. In fact, all formula has to be reconstituted by adding water. So we'll try to use that as the basis for checking the fluoride content. So our law enforcement will be compatible with the provision in the law. So first of all, we have to look at the instruction for reconstitution. If the instructions for use do not actually make a specific requirement about the kind of water used, and in most cases this is so, the CFS will first of all use distilled water to reconstitute the formula. A figure will be obtained, and then we will also make reference to the fluoride content in our edible water in Hong Kong, fresh water in Hong Kong, so as to find out whether the fluoride content would exceed our requirement. So this is to take into account the fluoride content of our fresh water. So this will mean that we can then meet the requirements of the provision. For the third question, again, it is about the fluoride content. Just at the last meeting, a member asked if we would conduct a study on the fluoride content of infant formula products on sale in Hong Kong. Upon enactment of the regulation, and when we carry out our law enforcement work, we would take samples of the infant formula so as to study the fluoride content. As to the last question, that's about the penalty levels. At the last meeting, a member said that the penalty levels might not have sufficient deterrent effect. Last time we said that it was regarded as appropriate because, first of all, any non-compliance would result in a criminal liability, and then the maximum penalty could be as much as 6 months imprisonment. So we believe that this is in line with the seriousness of the offense. We've also taken into account that for food safety-related offenses, the corresponding penalties have to be factored in, and we believe that the penalty level here is about right. And then a member has said that the deterrent effect may not be strong, and so we try to respond to members' views positively, and we have therefore decided that we are going to start a comprehensive review next year so as to take into account the 2 major pieces of ordinance, that is CAP 132, Public Health and Municipal Services Ordinance, as well as the Food Safety Ordinance, CAP 612, to find out whether the penalty levels are right.
Now, concerning these issues, do members have any comments? 4 minutes each. Helena Wong. Chairman, I find it really regrettable that we don't have time to deal with this piece of legislation. It has now already been endorsed or passed. Now, this is a supplementary paper, and my concern is on fluoride. Now, it is said that samples were taken from the market after the amendment regulation has come into force. But when will you do that? It's by negative vetting. The regulation is passed by negative vetting. It's already in force, and there is a grace period for infant formula and follow-up formula. Will you only take samples after the grace period? The Undersecretary. Yes, Ms. Wong is right. That is after the grace period. Correct. Chairman, I strongly protest against this. This is a very serious matter. Now, we are working on the amendment regulation concerning the provision on fluoride. We have already pointed out a lot of questions. The provision is unclear. You don't know the content. You don't know whether the fluoride in baby formula or infant formula is adequate. As for water, does it mean that the fluoride in water plus the fluoride in infant formula will be within the limits? We really don't know. Consumers don't know, and doctors don't know. So that's a bad, very bad provision. Now, the provision is unclear. You really don't know the fluoride content in infant formula, and yet you come up with a risk. You come up with a range. That's unreasonable. I think we should go back to the panel and discuss the matter, and there should be a new amendment. If you think that the fluoride content is too high and that leads to complications, then you should deal with that. So if the fluoride content is above a certain level, then the infant formula shouldn't be allowed to be sold in the market. Now, you know the fluoride content, you know the in water and in infant formula, and if they are added together and they exceed the requirement, then you should stop them from being sold. If you say, you just ask the doctor whether your baby should consume that infant formula, that's really irresponsible. I think the Bureau should follow that up, and the panel should take the matter up. Perhaps I'll ask the Deputy Secretary to explain our policy consideration. I hope you will take note of that. Yes, thank you. In deciding the approach to regulate fluoride in infant formula, we have balanced the interests of different parties. Although we don't have a very comprehensive assessment, according to the understanding of the market, Dr. Ho can supplement. As for the fluoride content of infant formula in the market, there is no serious problem. In para 6 of the paper, we said that we checked 10 infant formulae in the market, and they do label the fluoride content. The fluoride content is lower than the requirement by Codex. That's the first point. The fluoride, we do not see any serious problem with exceedance as far as fluoride content is concerned. And we also need to consider international practice. Only the European Union has adopted the Codex limit. Many major export countries of infant formula do not have any requirement on labeling fluoride. Say, for example, Singapore and the United States. They have no specific requirement on fluoride. Having considered these matters, we think the present proposal is fit. I think the labeling will provide an alert to the parent, and they, having read the labeling, they will know the risk of dental fluorosis. We believe that present labeling arrangement is appropriate. Perhaps Dr. Ho can speak on fluorides in infant formula being sold in the marketplace. Dr. Ho. Ms. Wong is very concerned about fluoride in infant formula, but you don't need to be over-worried according to the present situation. First, the requirement of Codex. The standard is arrived at after the discussion among 100 or so member countries. The standard is acceptable by member countries to be reasonable, and the chance of exceedance is really very small. I've already explained to members earlier on that according to the Codex, fluoride should not be added to the infant formula. Infant formula contains fluoride mainly because of the presence of fluoride in the natural environment. In 2012, according to information we collected, 10 brands of infant formulae have labels on fluoride, and many of them are less than 20. Our standard is no more than 100 micrograms per 1,000 kcal, or 100 kcal. In the labels, they say that if the products are consumed, they should be reconstituted with low mineral content water. Parents are reminded that if such formula is consumed, low mineral content water should be used, and therefore the fluoride content will be low, and after reconstitution it will not exceed, the milk will not exceed the limit. As said, as provided in the ordinance or in the regulation, it is if the fluoride content of any infant formula in a form that is reconstituted or served according to any instructions for use provided. Now, if it is labeled that water, low mineral content water has to be used, and then we will, in doing our calculation, we will not add the fluoride in potable water in our calculation. But if there is no instruction concerning reconstitution by what kind of water, then we will use potable water as a basis for calculation. And we don't see any problem or any risk with regard to infant formula in the market, to the extent that after consuming such infant formula, babies or children will have the problem of dental fluorosis. And in fact, dental fluorosis is not very common in Hong Kong. We believe that we have a clear requirement. If it exceeds the limit set by the Codex, then the label has to be labeled, and then parents can make a decision as to whether they consume that or they purchase that brand or not. Now, this is a wrap-up arrangement. Last time we had the meeting aborted because of one member short, and it was really regrettable. Those who were absent owed members of the public an explanation, as said by the chairman of the Legislative Council. We said that even if we are not able to complete the study, we would ask the panel to follow the matter up in respect of the views expressed at this subcommittee. Ms. Wong is concerned about fluoride. That is common concern among us. Now, it is said that after the law has come into effect and after the grace period has expired, then you will conduct a survey or an investigation. Will you start doing something even during the grace period so that you can collect some data and then you can report to the panel? And that's the first point. The second point is about penalty in respect of legibility of labels. Now, you say that you have adopted a new strategy, and that is a strategy of prompt prosecution. So after the strategy has been in place, will you give a report to the panel on the enforcement action taken, how many prosecutions have been taken out? And finally, the review on CAP 132 and 621. You only start to work at next year. Well, that's quite a tall order. You take a lot of time. Can you therefore update us regularly so that the panel can follow the matter up if there is such a need? As for the issue of fluoride, we have expressed our concern. I hope the Bureau will not wait and only do something after a year or so. I think you should start doing something ASAP, and the survey results or investigation results should be reported to the panel at the Bureau. Thank you, Chairman. With regard to fluoride, we'll certainly consider the Chairman's suggestion. If we are able to do it, we will do it earlier in order to address members' concerns. With regard to legibility, a new enforcement strategy has started. It was just started less than a month ago. At the end of the year, the CFS has quite a backlog, and we can only start our work next year at the beginning of next year, and we'll report to the panel. Ms. Selina Wong. Thank you, Chairman. According to Dr. Ho and Mr. Leung, it seems that they do have some numbers in hand. The only problem is that they have not collated such data for our reference. The brands of infant formula do have labeling of fluoride content. There is no such requirement in law. Individual brands have chosen to do that. how many percentage of the brands sold have labeling, CFS? Madam Chairman, concerning infant formula sold in market with fluoride labeling, it is not common. Only European Union countries within the European Union have such labels. Those coming from Europe have such labeling. We have yet to thoroughly study the regulation, but it has already been enacted. Can the Bureau be more specific? After the law has come into effect, does it mean that all infant formula sold in Hong Kong? Well, let me clarify. We have scrutinized the whole bill, but there are certain outstanding items. There are a lot of queries. We have scrutinized the regulation, but there are different views.
Dr. Ho, currently the Codex requirement is such that fluoride content is not included in the labeling requirement, and this is also the case in Hong Kong. But then if the content exceeds the maximum allowable content of the Codex, then we ask for a statement to be included that is consumption of this product may lead to fluorosis. It's only applicable to this kind of products. For other products, if they don't exceed the Codex limits, then there is no requirement for the statement. Well, in fact, it should have been given more detailed consideration, but then the scrutiny period has expired. So I suggest that we should write a report to the panel on food safety and environmental hygiene so that the chairman and the members can follow this up. And of course, we have to find out why the European Union has this requirement to label the fluoride content. We believe that the EU is more advanced in terms of food safety. Why aren't we following suit? Yes, we'll certainly write a report, but then the report is for the House come, not for the panel. Let me tell you what I intend to do. First of all, we'll write a report to the House Committee. This is the practice for subcommittees. Second, we'll invite the Bureau not to wait for the grace period to expire. There should be sample tests, and then a report should be made to the panel. So the panel will be armed with the information. Now, we know the details because we've taken part in this subcommittee, but others may not know. So I hope the CFS can carry out a study so that we can have a thorough discussion. And then to follow up on Dr. Ho's point, I think you've got some information with you. I just wonder if you can circulate the information to us after the meeting, like the practice in some overseas countries. It is only today that I learned that if an infant formula already contains a high fluoride content, then you will ask the users to use a low mineral content water to reconstitute the formula. Please start the survey and then report back to the panel. But of course, the topics that referred to will also be referred to the panel chairman so that they know that the subcommittee would like the panel to follow up on 3 major areas. And then we'll ask the panel and the Bureau to have a discussion as to when this will appear on our agenda. It's up to the panel chair. But of course, we can tell the panel chair that we are really concerned and we want to have it discussed ASAP. But as to when it should be taken up and when it will be taken up is up to the panel chair. He or she has the jurisdiction. Madam Chair, I agree with you most of what you said, but I don't think we should delay in dealing with the fluoride content. I think the CFS must tell us why we depart from the EU's practice, I think you need to give a clear justification. Is it because we think that the EU's requirement is superfluous? Can you give us the information afterwards? And now for the EU and other countries, they have got different standards. And when we look at the 29 nutrients as to what and which country to follow, I think you have got your rationale. So please tell us about your justifications concerning fluoride. Please tell us why we haven't followed the case of the EU. I think, according to Dr. Ho, the USA and Singapore haven't got the requirement to label the fluoride content. I think probably we are concerned that maybe in those cases they don't have fluoride in their water, and so it doesn't matter. But in Hong Kong, we have already added fluoride to our water, so we're concerned that the infant formula, when reconstituted, may cause a high level of fluoride content to the detriment of our babies. So please give us supplementary information. We did ask about the fluoride content of other countries. In the case of high fluoride contents, we also want to know whether there's a requirement to label the fluoride content in the infant formula. Please give us the written information so that and also please, when we have a panel discussion, show the information to the panel members as well. Thank you. That will be fine. Can I add something? Yes, certainly. Under Secretary. Yes, we've noted Dr. Wong's point. For information you ask for, we will certainly provide it. When we considered the legislative proposals, other than making reference to the international practice, I think the CFS also took into account the local circumstances. In the year 2012, we looked at 10 infant formula products which indicated the fluoride content, but none of them exceeded the limits. The CFS currently has a lot of dialogue with the trade. Generally speaking, we follow Codex. Codex does have certain requirements. So after balancing the various factors, a decision was made. But it doesn't matter. If you're interested, we can provide supplementary information. When you give us the information, you can also send the information to the panel members so that they can also consider the case. Of course, we will write to the chairman of the panel on food safety. Now, we may have members of the panel. You can also propose to the panel chair that this should be included in the list of outstanding items and ask for it to be dealt with urgently. I myself will take this up, but if you think it is urgent, you can also take it up with the chair, and then the Bureau can provide additional information. Members, any other views? No? Then I thank members for your full cooperation. And then this subcommittee has finished its work, and we will make arrangements to give us a report to the House. Thank you.